Hello and welcome to the War in the Pacific, where it is the 8th of March, 1942, in the Wirraway versus Encircled play-by-mail campaign. So we did rush the carriers into the South Pacific to see if I can catch that cruiser task force that just has been loitering off Pago Pago. This is a battleship sitting Jaffna. Royal Sovereign cruisers. He really doesn't like those troops at Jaffna. Okay. Not the target I was hoping my submarines would catch, but it's hard to get a shot at those fast-moving cruiser task forces. Skip check is hit. Okay, so you can see Task Force 1, where I ended up positioning. Nice. Looks like we found a number of different Allied task forces. So no fighter cover. Roveo. I was concerned that he might try to set up a trap, though I don't think he necessarily knew the carriers. I don't think he was sure the carriers were still there. Otherwise, I don't understand his cruiser task forces loitering. Interesting. Looks like he moved more aircraft into Samarinda. Hmm. Not sure why those lilies keep going after that mace. I blame the staff. So swordfish and wildebeest in a ground attack roll. Medium bombers. Yeah, my initial invasion force plan for Cylon would have been overwhelmed, it looks like eventually, yeah, by concentrated Allied air power. Could have gone directly in for one of the larger bases potentially, and then tried to fight it out. But staging a whole bunch of fighters there when he can bombard the base from the sea is not a bad idea. Okay. The Cassin is hit. Chicago is hit, but it's a belt armor hit. There she's deck armor's penetrated. Another deck armor penetration. Jester is hit. Chicago with 4 penetrating 500-pound hits. Jester with multiple 100-pounders. So I think you can safely scratch 2 heavy cruisers. Sorry, I rushed through that. Helena was hit by 500-pound bombs. Note my Kates are using bombs, not torpedoes. Um, this is primarily in the first strike because the cruisers and destroyers are typically very hard to hit with torpedoes. But these this era of American cruisers have relatively modest deck armor and belt armor, so they're quite susceptible to 500-pounder hits. Nashville is hit. Helm is hit heavily. Uh-oh. Some Kates go after ships with no escort. Something sank. So I thought he might do that. So he put up some cap over Miri where the bombers had been going in unescorted, sending the Oscars to sweep. Fortunately, it looks like our carriers are weathered in on the second half of the turn. Nope, not completely. Nashville is three at least penetrating bomb hits. Bagley is hit. So Chicago was still afloat at this time, Tucker. They're both gone. So it was probably the other heavy cruiser that previously sank. I think we can we'll check the uh, losses, but I think we can pretty confident two heavy cruisers were sunk and uh, one to two of the machine gun light cruisers. It's like we probably lost 6 to 7 strike aircraft. Okay, so we took Chang. Good. And they're retreating north. Very good. Nothing new here. Yeah, they'll drive out the cavalry brigade. Paratroopers again continuing for our preparations for our invasion of the remaining Borneo bases. We'll speed through the end of the turn here. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. Let's take a look at our losses. So lost all 13 of those Kates, it looks like. It says 3 seagulls, a couple Dorners, so those were probably at one of the bases we grabbed. So we'll watch this more closely, but we've essentially rendered his cruiser task forces combat ineffective. And go ahead and move in on Vaveu. Why are these guys over here? Well, we know that his other cruiser task force is down either in New Zealand or in Australia, rearming and refitting. So they were safely away from his main cruiser task force. Carriers have done their work and they'll go ahead and begin their redeployment. Let's just check. So Skaga's air group. We might get a few of those guys back, but obviously, um, well, we have quite a few of those pilots, and pilots have to be replaced. You're missing some very experienced pilots. from that blunder into the cap over Savai. Or not, the operation went exactly as intended. So that's good news. In China, more good news. Chang has fallen, so the route now to Lanzhou and its oil and refinery is essentially open. These troops are wrecked. So we'll be able to wrap up the Lanzhou campaign and begin our move on Chengdu and Chongqing through the mountains. Nothing really going on in southern China other than continuing to move our units to the staging base at Luqiao and to take Nanning for the drive on Kowloon. So the 9th Division continues to unload and prepare for what should be the final few attacks on Manila, and continue our preparatory operations for Borneo. Anything else in India? So they've been pounding away at Jaffna. Uh, yeah, so this is going to be a bit tricky here. And continuing to I'm going to bring in the 2nd Royal Chai Division and the 55th Engineer Regiment for making another attack at Glacio. Looks like should be able to finish wiping these guys out here in the next few days. See if we can flip the oil at Magway. Submarine operating off Sumatra. Talked about it a couple of days before, that light cruiser task force. Let's see 2 more submarines here. The carriers have already slipped by. They will go through refit, repair at Singapore while we bring CARDIVs 1 and 2 up. Little Tayo continues to make her way home. So right now, other than the further deterioration of the situation in Ceylon, which is expected, and what looks like potentially pretty strong defense in central India, which we may struggle to break with the available combat power. Um, things are moving along. I think big picture, China's going along fine. Burma is going well. India, we've taken Calcutta and the key industrial zone, but it may prove very difficult to make a lot of progress in India, since much of the U.S. forces has been committed, it appears, to the defense of India, which makes sense. It makes sense from a game perspective. Politically, it wouldn't have been possible. And our SOPAC operations are going along fine. We have definitely at the moment the upper hand in SOPAC, um, and continues sort of to chip away at his naval resources and destroy allied infantry, engineers, and base forces for little losses, to no losses, not no little losses on our side. Anyway, I look forward to our next chance to talk.